Welcome to Witch Way. I'm Elise and this is the real world witch lore of the Weaver and the Witch Queen. Written by Genevieve Gornichec, The Weaver and the Witch Queen was released in 2023. It follows Gunhild, Odny and Signy, who made a blood oath as children before going their separate ways. Gunhild studies magic, and Signy and Odny live on their family farm, learning healing skills and weaving, until one day it is raided. Odny escapes, but Signy is taken. Odny sets out to track her down and crosses paths once again with her childhood friend Gunhild. They reunite through their common goal, to save Signy. These two women do what they must, finding their strengths, learning from their weaknesses, calling on debts and making deals. But the raid was only the start of something bigger, something involving kings and witches. The magic and witches of Weaver are inspired by Icelandic sagas, Norse mythology, history, and folklore. Weaver gives us the backstory of a quasi-historical figure of the Viking age known as Gunhild, Mother of Kings. We hear of her beginnings in Harald Haarfager's saga. She was thought to be a sorceress and first met her to-be husband Eric Bloodaxe at the home of her magic teachers, two Finnish wizards. These appear in Weaver as Gunhild's two Sami friends, who are practitioners of Nuedi, a traditional Sami practice where shamans would use drums to facilitate communication with the spirits. Gunhild helps Eric as a last resort, as he has a reputation as a witch killer. This also comes from Harald Haarfager's saga. King Harald, for whom the saga was named, was said to fall madly in love with the Sami woman Snæfrid, so much that he forgot his kingdom. When she dies, her corpse does not rot for 3 years until she is moved, and then the body turned blue and worms, toads, newts, paddocks, and all sorts of ugly reptiles came out of it, and it sank into ashes. After this, the king found out the truth, that he had been bewitched. So later, when he finds out that one of his sons, Rongvold, followed in his mother's footsteps and learned magic, he sent another of his sons, Eric Bloodaxe, to burn Rongvold and his men in their hall. A similar story is told in Weaver, and this is why witches will not treat with Eric. That is, until Gunhild. Gunhild did not learn magic from her Sami friends in Weaver, but from the witch, Heid. Gunhild first meets Heid as a child, when the seeress is invited to prophesy for her and her people. This was thought to be the role of a witch, or a volva as they were known, and in the sagas, Heid appears many times as either a personal name or title for witch, the latter of which is alluded to in Weaver. In the saga Volspa, or Witch's Prophecy, the god Odin calls on a volva, and in her prophecy she remembers the woman Golvig, who, after being thrice burned and thrice reborn, takes the name Heid, the witch, the prophetess. And after this, houses she visited, a good prophesying seeress skilled in sorcery, spells she cast and minds she bewitched, and always she was the delight of wicked women. In Weaver, the ritual that Heid conducts for her prophecies is better described when speaking of our next witch, the antagonist of our story, Thorbjörg. In the saga Eric the Red, the prophetess Thorbjörg Littlevolva, Lesser or Little Witch, is invited to a settlement to prophesy. A platform is set up with a stool placed atop it, cushioned with chicken feathers. Thorbjörg sends the platform, tools of her craft in her belt pouch, an iron staff in her hand, and asks the women present to sing the weird songs to help her call upon the spirits. The warding songs play a pivotal role in the magic of Weaver, used to protect the practitioner while they are speaking with the spirits or sending their spirit out in a different form. Before witches could travel outside their body or to commune with the spirits in Weaver, they would first consume henbane tea before then miming spinning with their staff. In a Viking Age burial known as the Firket woman, both henbane seeds and an iron staff were found. There are other similar burials containing such staffs, leading archaeologists to believe these seers or volva, which also means staff carrier, held a high rank in society to warrant such grave goods in their burials. Not only do they mime spinning in Weaver with their iron staffs, when they travel outside their bodies, they are connected by a golden thread. So perhaps their magic comes from the Norns, figures of Norse mythology who were the keepers of fate and were often depicted spinning the fates of men and gods while tending to the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree. I also came across the term threadrider or thread rider, one of the many words in the sagas for witch riders. These were sorceresses who would send out their spirit in another form or even send it out to ride people. And this is where we hear the name of the next witch from Weaver. In the saga of the Air Dwellers, the witch Katla is accused of witch riding a person, making them battered and bruised. In some versions, she even rides him to death. Either way, she was then stoned to death. Another story of a witch named Katla exists in Icelandic folklore. This Katla has a pair of magical pants that allow the wearer to travel vast distances. When she finds out a shepherd has used them without her permission, she kills him. Before the body can be found, the witch flees and throws herself into a canyon. A volcano then causes a nearby glacier to flood. Today, the canyon and volcano are both named after the witch. Gunhild does not have a pair of magical pants, nor does she ride people, at least not in the spiritual sense, but she travels in the form of a swallow. This ability comes from another saga, Egil's saga. We hear that Gunhild tries to distract Egil from his writings as a witch-possessed bird, specifically a swallow. We also hear about magical practices involving runes in Egil's saga. Both Odni and Signy use runes in their practices. Odni only as a last resort, as her mother warns if the incorrect runes were drawn, they could do the opposite of their intended effects. We hear of such side effects in Egil's saga when Egil finds a runestick under the bed of a sick woman. He discovers that these runes have been carved incorrectly, which made her sickness worse. He creates his own runes to heal her and advises that those who do not understand the runes should not use them. Egil also later uses runes to curse King Eric and Queen Gunhild. Runes were and are still used for both mundane and magical purposes. In Norse mythology, the god Odin was said to have pierced his body with his spear and hanged from a branch of the world tree Yggdrasil for 9 days and 9 nights to gain the knowledge of the runes. He was also taught Seir from Freya. She is the Norse goddess of fertility, war, and magic. Seir is magic that involves seeing and shaping of the future, and in Weaver, Freya was the first witch. It's mind-blowing how much the author was able to weave these sagas together, pun intended, to make such a rich story. The magic system is completely her own, and she chose not to use the Old Norse terms, changing Seid to magic and using Seeress, sorceress or witch, instead of the many terms for magic users, such as Volva, out of respect to modern day pagans and worry of spreading misinformation. I got most of my information from The Viking Way by Neil S. Price, and there is just so much detail that this book goes into. The Weaver and the Witch Queen scores for lore, so much history, and the craft, and I thoroughly enjoyed this retelling. I highly recommend checking it out. We also have The Witch's Heart by the same author, the retelling of another character in Norse mythology, so maybe I will have to give that a read too. What have you been reading or watching lately? Let me know in the comments below, as well as what you thought of The Weaver and the Witch Queen. If you have any more recommendations for my upcoming witch lore reviews, include those in the comments as well. If you like what I do here, you can support my channel by donating via the thanks button or by completing your Witch Way ritual in liking this video, sharing it with those you think might enjoy it, and of course subscribing to my channel to stay notified of my new content. And as always, thank you very much for watching here on Witch Way.